Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, and a special hello to TJ in Vancouver. And he says, I love the show, Neil. You do seem to do a lot of travelling. When are you coming to Canada? First of all, TJ, what a cool name. I mean, hey, TJ, sounds so much cooler than, hi, Neil. So I'm a bit envious of your name there. But let me tell you, Canada is top of my list to visit. And when I asked my son recently where we should go on this year's summer adventure, he did suggest Vancouver and that incredibly cool-looking Capilano suspension bridge. So watch this space, and maybe, just maybe, we can chat about life, the universe and everything over a hot coffee or a cold beer. You choose, my friend, and hopefully we can make that happen. But today I want to talk about a trend that I've noticed more and more recently, and that's the rise of the subscription economy. Our shelves of DVDs and CDs and vinyl records have all disappeared. And instead we now have subscriptions to Spotify, Netflix and Amazon. And in many cases we don't actually own anything anymore, we just subscribe to a service that gives us what we want. And even the average home could see ladies subscribing to the Birchbox beauty products, men have the Dollar Shave Club, and geeks have Loot Crate. And in the workplace, businesses have shut down their data centres and subscribed to cloud services, and even creatives are fully subscribed to the subscription economy too, with Adobe Cloud. And if we zoom right out, subscriptions have transformed every element of our life. And yet we seldom talk about this overwhelming trend, and how for many businesses, subscriptions are probably the secret ingredient to their future growth. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way back to the Bay Area so we can speak with Tom Krackeler from a company called Zuora, who is going to tell us all about the impact that subscriptions are having on the economy and how they can help give businesses, the customers, what they want: change. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Tom. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thank you, Neil. It's great to be here. So yes, I'm Tom Krackeler. I'm Senior Vice President of Products at Zuora. I joined Zuora about 3 years ago following the acquisition of a startup that I was leading. And basically my background has been in a software as a service product for the last 20 years or so, everything from helping nonprofits learn how to fundraise online, to customer analytics, to order to cash. So it's been an exciting journey and a really exciting chance to work at Zuora, where I run our product teams. And happy to tell you a little bit about Zuora, Neil, if you want me to keep going.
Well, look, I was just going to say, looking over your website, the first thing that I read is we're in the midst of a once-in-a-century shift in business models because people are choosing outcomes over ownership now, and they want value services that they want to subscribe to. And the world is shifting to subscriptions, and it's having a major impact on consumers and businesses alike. So if I look at my own life, I have subscriptions to Amazon Prime, Netflix, and I've dabbled with other subscriptions as well, such as Loot Crate, Dollar Shave Club, and I think my wife has subscribed to Birchbox a few times as well. So, I mean, those words really resonated with me. So, can you tell the listeners about Zuora and how it's helping every department in organisations, from finance to IT to sales to product, and how you provide freedom to easily grow, flex, and transform your business, ultimately through subscriptions?
Yeah, no, you've got it exactly right. I mean, our vision is that the world is changing from a product-based economy to a subscription economy. And just the things you were talking about there, how we look at movies and television using things like Netflix, how we listen to music through Spotify, how companies, it could be individuals, it could be companies, buy software now through software as a service rather than buying physical software. And these changes that we've been observing over the last decade or so are only happening more and more quickly. And Zuora, our company, is basically a horizontal platform that helps companies in any industry be able to move into a subscription model. And whether they do digital or sell through the cloud or sell through any different sort of way, be able to take advantage of this giant shift to the subscription economy and operate in that new way. You talked about how every department can be affected by that. And it's really true. You know, all the traditional departments in various different companies are changing how they operate now in the subscription economy. And they're actually putting their subscribers, rather than thinking about how do I move products through channels where I may not even know who the buyer of my vehicle or my computer or my stereo is. Companies are putting the subscriber, their customer, at the center of everything they do. So marketing sales teams, they're now looking to build, one-on-one relationships that are, engaged and renewing over time. It's not one-time transactions, but it's relationships that take place over years. Finance departments are thinking about how they recognize revenue and have more stable recurring revenue business models. It goes all the way across the board to how we build the product, to how even our IT organization works. And so Zuora is here to help companies do this and succeed and grow in the subscription economy.
So Zuora also recently announced a major upgrade to the Zuora Central platform with the addition of Zuora Orders, which is ultimately designed to help businesses give the customer exactly what they want, which is change. I mean, can you expand on that and the level of change that consumers now expect and why businesses must listen and adapt?
Yeah, so we've spent, the last 10 years at Zuora building a horizontal platform that could handle the needs of any company that's trying to succeed in the subscription economy. And order management is one of the key areas that's really very different in the subscription economy than the product economy. And we've been looking at our customer data and how they use our product across many industries in the last decade, and we found some really, really interesting things. We know that the subscription economy is growing faster than 9 times faster than the S&P 500 and is growing increasingly fast every year. We know that for subscription companies, 70% of their revenue comes from existing customers rather than new sales, and that companies that are letting their subscribers make changes to their subscriptions, letting them do upgrades and downgrades, or whether they can pause a subscription or resume a subscription, giving their customers control, are growing much, much faster. So the Zuora major orders upgrade to the Zuora Central platform is really all about helping companies address these new kinds of customer expectations. So we have ways to track these different kinds of orders, much more nuanced around the overall life cycle of the customer rather than a one-time sale. And we're really seeing, incredible results. So, and companies really are going to need a very different order management system. They traditionally use order management in ERP systems, and they're not really designed for this. So just one great example, one of our customers is a company called Zoom that does the software we're using right now to record this conversation. They've got over 100,000 customers that are making on average of 5 different change orders per month. They're adding users, they're adding more bandwidth, they're upgrading systems. The Zuora order management system is intended to support that sort of volume and that sort of dynamic customer relationships over time.
Now, at the Subscribe conference in San Francisco, Zuora predicted that the next 10 years of subscription growth will require flexibility with subscriptions. Now, a lot of people listening obviously couldn't attend that event. So can you just expand on the points that were made there?
It's our annual event, and we have our main Subscribe conference in San Francisco. We also have conferences similar in London, in Paris, and elsewhere around the world. It's really bringing thought leaders and businesses that are trailblazing subscription business models together. And we're trading ideas, we're trading findings, we're looking at data. And what we're really seeing is a very sweeping change across many different industries into how they are kind of rethinking their business model to put in place these recurring revenue relationships with their customers. And we see it across all these different industries. So from smart floors, companies who are selling flooring, and it's smart flooring that can tell where people are walking for retail. They're saying, how do I monetize services? How do I monetize the outcomes and experience rather than just selling product? So we're seeing, we have a new customer that does porta potties as a service, something you might not have ever imagined. I certainly never did. So we're seeing it across all these different industries. And it really is a global phenomenon. It's multiple industry. We're seeing a lot of growth, across Europe, and some of our biggest growth is in Japan with customers like Toshiba and Komatsu. So, there's not any one type of company or one type of trend that we think is required here. It's really something that we're seeing benefits of subscriptions that we can see across lots of different markets, lots of different industries.
And I think in corporate environments especially, data centers are now long gone out of IT departments and they've gone to cloud services. They subscribe to those. And equally, creative digital teams are subscribing to Adobe Cloud or similar services there. But are there any use cases that you can share with us today that will enable a business leader that could be listening now to see exactly how subscriptions could transform their business?
So absolutely. So you think about the automobile industry, and we work with Ford and GM and a bunch of really great companies who are looking out and saying, of course, we're going to continue to sell cars and vehicles, and that's the main part of our business. But our projections say this will probably be relatively flat over the next decade. And the opportunity for growth is going to be around providing services to our end customers who we might not have, unless they had a lease, we might not even know who that person was today or 5 years ago. So, a great example, Ford Pass is a new service that Ford is doing that connects, drivers' information from their car to a bunch of different mobility services. They call it, from bed to desk. And it may not have anything to do with vehicles. It could have to do with bicycles, or it could have to do, maybe with parking or with other ways. But it's really thinking more broadly about what are the outcomes that our customers want. And rather than think about, let me sell them physical products and monetize the transaction of a single sale of a good, it's saying what are the outcomes or end results or value that the customer is looking for, and how do we monetize that? So for an automobile industry, it may be monetizing mobility rather than worrying about selling cars. For we work with Caterpillar, and they have over 500,000 connected assets, diggers, and various machines. And they're moving away from selling tractors to saying, well, really, we want to monetize the outcomes of how much earth are we moving. General Electric has, as many people know, a big IoT business. So they're thinking about how do we monetize outcomes like saving money from finding maintenance on our machines before they break. So there's a lot of different use cases you can imagine. But I think the most important and most common thread is, let me think about my subscriber, my customer. What is the outcome that he or she most cares about? And how do I provide a service that can deliver that for the person and then monetize the outcome or the service rather than selling a physical good? And so we could go on and on, but that's really the concept that we're seeing in all these different places, really fascinating across industries.
Now, when I was reading about you guys as well, I quickly came across a book called Why the Subscription Model Will Be Your Company's Future and What to Do About It. Now, I've not read it, but I wondered, could you just tell me a little bit more about that book as well and the thought process behind it?
So this is our founder and CEO, Tim Zuora. So he has led us here at Zuora over the last decade. And, before that, he was, I think, employee number 11 at Salesforce.com. And so he's participated in, he's observed a lot of these transformations to software as a service, to the cloud, to subscriptions, to new business models. And he's learned a lot on this journey. And this, our book, Subscribe, that the team wrote just this year, is basically talking about how to apply all of that. If you're in a business, if you're in the software business, if you're in the media business, of course, you're already feeling this today. But I think Team talks about how anybody across any industry, across any company, is going to be thinking in a different way about their customer, about their monetization and pricing models, about how to deliver value over the long term with their customers. And the book really tells a lot of kind of funny stories, interesting stories across Team's time at Zuora, and with all the great companies we worked with who are on this journey to reinvent themselves for the subscription economy. So it's a easy read, a fun read, and really, really useful for anyone in business thinking about the next 10 years.
So there is going to be people listening all over the world. So I've got to say, what would a future world look like where everything is sold via subscription or a service look like? I mean, there's an argument we're already living in that world, but I mean, do you think that's just going to progress?
Just upload your brain to the cloud, and no, I'm just kidding. So the world, I think it's going to look in some ways a lot like the world today in terms of we're still humans, and we're still living in communities and families and doing the things that we care about. But I think what we're going to see is that businesses are going to be doing a much better job of understanding who their customers are and putting the burden on the company rather than the individual to deliver value to the person. So if I were to go and say, I'm going to buy, a new car, a piece of software, a movie, a house, whatever it is, once I buy the thing, it's sort of on me. If it doesn't work, if I don't like it, I have to work through this planned obsolescence. What am I going to do with it? How do I recycle it? All these sorts of things where the burden's really on the buyer, whether it's an individual or whether it's a business. And I think what this future world is going to look like, as individuals can just subscribe to what they like. They pay by the value or the outcomes they get. And they have the choice to say, you know what, I tried this for 2 months. I don't like it. I'm going to move on to something else. And so I think it's a world where individuals will have a lot more choice. Companies will be a lot more focused on good outcomes for the customer. And so I think rather than some radical world where we're living differently, and sure, there's going to be new technology, but I really think it's going to be something where the balance of power, so to speak, between the buyer and the company is going to be tilted in the direction of the individual consumer.
Well, as a man of a certain age, one of the tech trends that I've particularly noticed is that over the years, we used to if you look around our homes, there used to be shelves everywhere with vinyl records, video cassettes, tape cassettes, CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays. But all those shelves are empty now because we don't actually own anything. We just subscribe to them. So I think in the book, it also hints around the end of ownership. So can you expand on that a little bit as well? Yeah,
that's exactly the idea. The end of ownership just means when you think about ownership, sure, you possess something and that you can see it and feel it, but it also comes with a responsibility that some people may not want, right? How many times have you moved? I can tell you that I have those bookshelves and stacking them and carrying them. And so, I think basically it's just our way of thinking about there are burdens of ownership, there are benefits, and that there are, we really see through, advances in technology, through delivering more digital services, more services through the cloud, more, of our physical goods that are going to be smart devices. All of these things kind of go with this new kind of business model, the subscription-based business model. It's not brand new, subscriptions that have been around forever, but the creativity around how to basically provide things that your customers value, have them pay as they go, pay for how they use, pay for the outcomes. And so that's really what we mean by the end of ownership. You're still going to own a lot of things, of course, but it's going to be less about what do I own and more about what can I experience? What is my experience as a customer like? And that's really our observation, and that's really what Zuora as a company, the technology we're building, the software we're building, is trying to help businesses who want to move and operate in this new world where ownership is going to be less important than a experience that a customer or a subscriber can get through your company.
How do subscriptions work with things like physical stuff, would you say?
Cars are a good example, but when you talk about a subscription service for a vehicle, really it could be, we have examples where, well, one thing, you can subscribe to a company for a vehicle and swap out the vehicle along the way because, you know what, I want to try a different one in the winter that has four-wheel drive. And I want to just do one place and have it include my insurance and pay for gas or electric if it's an electric vehicle. So there's a lot of ways to think about, how can I provide a better experience, even if it's something like a car that we think of, there's been leases, there's been recurring, revenue models where it can be very, very different. And then you can go to, ride sharing. You see, the scooters are taking off in the cities now. So all these different transportation, subscriptions that could be anything from a fixed subscription where you say, I'm going to pay X dollars a month per person or what have you, or it could be more of a usage-based subscription, which says, like an Uber or a Lyft, where I'm going to just pay for what I use. And so we're seeing a variety of all those different things. You mentioned Birchbox and these box of the month clubs or other subscriptions where you may pay a certain amount but then have some choice about what you would get in your delivery each month. And so we're seeing, examples of all those sorts of things. So Volvo, is a example of a company. They do, I think, like a SUV subscription for $600 a month. And like I was referring to earlier, everything's covered except maybe the gas. They expect, 1 in 5 of their company's vehicles to be delivered via a subscription model by 2023, by 5 years from now. So we're seeing this happen. We're not seeing the physical goods or physical world go away. Certainly it's not that, but it's a new way to buy and a new way to have a relationship between a buyer and a company.
So is it difficult to spin up a new subscription service for a company that has never done it before? And also, what would you advise to any CEO listening who you've just provided with a light bulb moment and they're suddenly starting to get where the future's heading?
Yeah, so I think, for some industries, people are all bought in this business model, and it's really about, innovation and how to deliver a better customer experience. For other industries, it may happen more slowly, but our advice to a CEO is, if you're not thinking about it, your competitor probably is, in terms of how to go to market in a different way, how to deliver an outcome rather than just, selling a good to your buyer. You don't need to have a ton of experience. I mean, that's why companies like Zuora are here. You can think about like the media industry, and it was very much, newspapers, magazines, publications were done one way for a very long time. And then it changed, and it changed quickly. There were digital subscriptions, and you could start experimenting with what do my readers really want. One of our customers is the Financial Times, and they back a few years ago during that big weekend where the Brexit vote happened, well, they saw a spike in traffic, and because they used a technology like Zuora, they were able to experiment in a lot of different ways. They brought down their firewall, they gave everybody free access, and then they came back with a subscription offer and found a 6x spike in their level of new subscribers, new subscriptions, by being able to just experiment when they saw, the current events were such that it applied the opportunity. So I think for CEOs, if you're in an industry that has not moved to this model, it's time to start thinking about it. And it's actually something that, that we're seeing companies have a lot of success experimenting in as they want to diversify what their business looks like.
Can you also remind those CEOs that could be listening where they can find you guys online, and also contact a member of your team if they have any questions or just want to carry on that conversation that we started today?
Yeah, absolutely. So to begin with, our company is Zuora. It's Zuora.com, Zuora.com, and you can find, we have a wealth of information and white papers and best practices and blogs about how to think about the strategy behind all the things we're talking about today. And then, go to Amazon if you'd like to buy Team Zuora's book, Subscribe, which has a lot of the learnings of the last decade captured in a really digestible format. So that's what I'd advise.
Fantastic. Well, one of the things that I love about these changes and how the system's evolving right now is this thirst for change is actually customer-led, and that customer experience. Because even if I look at myself, whether it be Amazon, Netflix, Adobe Cloud, Xbox Live, if I get all my services through this way, then I'm going to carry that expectation around with me and expect other businesses to provide a similar service. And I think it isn't going to be too long until businesses realise that the secret to that future growth that they're looking for is going to be in subscriptions. And so I just want to offer a big thank you for coming on and making everyone aware of that today. Thank you.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And thank you, Neil. Great to speak with you. Really enjoyed being on the show.
One thing we didn't cover there was at their recent annual user conference in San Francisco, the CEO and founder predicted that the next 10 years of subscription growth requires flexibility with those subscriptions. Now that the subscription economy is here, companies can only grow through expansion of their customer base. And recent earnings and revenue growth from Okta, Twilio, Talent really prove this. Essentially, customers and businesses want change. They don't want a 3-year rigid contract and a supplier meeting every 6 to 12 months. The new currency is flexibility and, of course, subscriptions. And we'll soon be subscribing to everything from IT, transportation, retail services, healthcare, even housing. But how do you feel about that as a listener? Yes, I mean you stuck in traffic at 7:47 in the morning, or you walking your dog in the glorious summer sunshine. I hand over the baton to you so we can put the chat amongst the pigeons. So email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, and if you do need any help writing blog content or launching your own podcast, pop over to my site, techblogwriter.co.uk. But I'm off to count my ever-growing list of subscriptions now, but I will return tomorrow with another great guest, and I hope today's episodes will make you question the old way of doing things, and that tech actually works best when it brings people together. So a big thank you for your company today and listening to this show, and I hope you'll join me again tomorrow. But until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.